Let's check what is moving markets at the moment, what to watch out for this week. And to do that, we are joined by Peter Maguire from XM. Pete, a very good Monday morning to you. Lots to look forward to this week, not the least, of course, being Jackson Hole. Markets looking for some more guidance from particularly Jerome Powell ahead of the Fed meeting next month.
Absolutely, Andrew, and good morning. I tell you what, he's got his hands full. But when you're looking at last week and the power of the US equities and global equities, I think that's really creating a little bit of a dilemma for him. Do you cut at 50 basis points after you saw such a big move to the upside? We're only 2% off an all-time high for the S&P. So it's just been a dramatic move. And then are we going to see if there's a 55% probability of a 50 basis point cut in September? So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. I'm looking forward to hearing from Fed Chair Powell, and the commentary will be very much a focus point.
How do you think markets are going to react, I guess, in between now and the next meeting, depending on what he has to say?
Yeah.
Because it's still a bit of an open debate as to whether they're going to be 25 or 50 basis points.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's going to continue that volatility, Andrew. It's just what we've seen in the last month has been dramatic, and I feel as though that will continue leading up into September. Big volatility swing. So that, I think, is the course of events, and we've just got to see how it all ratchets up. But if you're not hedging, for the retail traders out there, they have to look at hedging, because if you do see a pullback, you need to profit from it and keep those positions open, or naturally, watch a screen 24 hours a day.
So just taking a look at that chart, Pete, what are the highlights and lowlights for you?
Well, I think first off, Andrew, you've got to be conscious as far as gold. You mentioned that. Well, it's nearly at 25.50 at the moment. Crude oil had a nice move up, and then all of a sudden was sold off on Friday evening. You're looking at euro yen. The yen has been a very hot trade, and so is the euro in the short run. Over the last couple of weeks, it's been really strong move to the upside through 101.1. Euro pound has been a great market to trade as well, and keep an eye very close on silver, and that US dollar's taking a little bit of a hit to the downside.
All right, but you mentioned the euro and the pound. Let's take a look at what's going on, particularly as we see it. Excuse me, some PMIs.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, for sure, Andrew. I mean, you've got Eurozone and UK PMIs, and that'll affect naturally policy coming from the ECB and the Bank of England. They come out on Thursday. You've got just the framework of that. We're very conscious as far as President Lagarde. She sounded downbeat about the Eurozone's growth outlook. So I'm thinking you're going to see a 25 basis point cut in September as well. So that could be the mood, and you've got to look at those PMIs very closely and whether you do see a contraction under 50.
Elsewhere, Japan, look, another reading on inflation, of course. We're trying to work out, markets are trying to anticipate what the Bank of Japan's next move is going to be.
Well, I think first off, I want to talk about the Japanese stock market. Last week was up 8%. So I think that's the other side of it. You've had that really nice move to the upside. We're conscious as far as BOJ policy. We're fairly sure that I don't think you'll see another rate hike this year. You've got national CPI data on the agenda this week. That comes out, I think, Thursday. So that's a real close one that we're going to keep an eye on. And the overall theme is just one, keep an eye on naturally CPI. Look at the stock market and have a look at the yen as well. They're a really good barometer as far as economic health for the country.
Overall, what are you seeing on currencies at the moment? Which pairs are you concentrating on at this point?
Well, it's pretty hard to keep away from anything that's, with US dollar focus. So US dollars come under pressure. So you're looking at that Eurodollar, yen sitting at around that 148. The pound's pretty flat still, Andrew. Still 129. It's range bound. Doesn't do a lot. 1.29. I've got to say that euro dollar is the one to look at, because that US dollar index sitting just under 102.50. I feel as though that will have, dependent upon again what Fed Chair Powell says, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be heading into the 101 sort of handle sometime over the next couple of weeks leading into September, because that if the rhetoric comes out and it's a 50 basis point and people read into that, and it moves from 55% probability to say 80 or 90, that'll sell the US dollar off.
So, Pete, overall, particularly when you see what happened on equity markets over the past couple of weeks with that extreme volatility the week before last, should we anticipate that that is still possibly the case given some of this data we're going to get, some commentary we're getting from central bankers? How do you see the equity market placed at the moment?
I mean, Andrew, what you've seen in the last 2 weeks is dramatic. You know, that sell off as far as yen. You saw the US market take a little fairly heavy hit to the downside, and then it's bounced last week. And now you're 2% off the all-time high for the S&P, 8%, as I mentioned, for the Japanese market, up last week. I think that volatility is going to remain, and I think that's how it's going to roll over till you get to September as far as rate policy and what, because there's so many different moving parts. You've got geopolitical tensions moving in now. You've got all of a sudden what's happening as far as equity markets, currency markets, bond rates, and of course keep a close eye on the gold market. You know, there seems to be the fear moving into that, running at 25.50.